Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. Here we will discuss the best captaincy candidates for Gameweek 18. With Liverpool off on World Club Cup duties, City taking on Leicester, this looks to be the week to take a risk and be a little different. My name is Joe and joining me is David. David, how are you?
I'm all right, I guess. I'm a little bit down in the doldrums because Kevin De Bruyne has single-handedly destroyed Game Week 17 for me. That rankles a little bit. But as you mentioned there, plenty of opportunity in Game Week 18 to pick a differential captain, and hopefully I can make up the lost ground that Kevin has taken away from me.
Yeah, it could be some big rank swings this week because all the popular options are either not available or they've got facing tough defences. I just want to say we usually stream these videos live, but this one's been pre-recorded as David and Neil are off to represent us at an awards ceremony this week. David, tell us about that.
Yeah, so we got nominated for Online Media of the Year by the Football Supporters Association, which is quite exciting. We mentioned that a few weeks and months back because you basically could vote for who was to win that category. I believe this video may be going out after we find out who's won that category. So maybe we won, I don't know, I'm not sure. If we have won, then thank you for voting for us. And even if we haven't, again, thank you for voting for us and also reading all of our articles and watching all our videos, because if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be in the position to have been nominated in the first place. So yes, thank you to everybody for your support.
Yeah, great to be nominated. Some great company there. Right, let's move on. So usually at this stage we talk about Jamie Vardy or a Liverpool midfielder at the top here, but not so this week. So who we captain this time around may come down to obviously personal choice, but the variety of stats that you want to look at or don't want to look at, the opposition, and also your attitude to risk, reward and consistency as well. So you could be going for an explosive player or you could be going for someone who just keeps racking up the points. Marcus Rashford is one of those types of players. He can be explosive, but he's been very consistent right up until the weekend. But against Watford, he should be a popular choice. What do you think, Rashford, for the captaincy?
Yeah, you're certainly right. I think he's going to be a popular choice because of the form that he's shown, and because Watford are one of those teams that are very much all in our kind of mindset as a team. You are happy captaining players against anyone who captained Salah this week. Obviously, made some big gains after he scored 2 goals against Watford. The form on Rashford is a little bit sort of interesting for me. So, for example, a lot of people have been saying last few weeks that he's done well against, say, Spurs and Man City because Man City are a counter-attacking team, so they're going to do well against the teams that push on themselves. Watford at Anfield, I was quite impressed with what I saw defensively from them. I mean, naturally, sticking everyone behind the ball is what most teams are going to do at Anfield. And of course, Liverpool did score basically both of their goals on the counter. Mane obviously had a goal, in my opinion, unfairly chalked off for what I believe is not a clear and obvious offside. But hey, we could do a whole video on that. Yeah. They still conceded some chances, but for most of the game, considering that was Nigel Pearson's first game, I was quite impressed with how they put everyone behind the ball. So then my concern is that Rashford, as he sort of found against Everton, that when you're playing a team that's not attacking you as much, does that negate the threat? So if we look at some of the stats from Rashford over the last 4 game weeks, going into game week 17, he was doing considerably better for shots in the box, but over the last 4 coming into this one, he's had just 9, and there's about 10-15 players in the league who've had more than that. Big chances, he's had 4, which actually is quite good. That's joint second. So when he is having chances, they are of a high quality. And shots on target, he's usually quite accurate. So he's had 8 shots on target last 4. That is the second best in the league as well. So when he does have the opportunity to shoot, it's usually a high quality chance and it's usually on target. So that is there as a positive for him. But part of me just worries a little bit about Watford, because if Pearson can have that effect in the first away game at Anfield, first home game against the United team that kind of everybody knows you can frustrate if you're a defensive-minded team, it just, at the back of my mind, it kind of gives me a few doubts. And unfortunately, to be honest, most of the candidates this week, there's that little doubt about, which is probably why the differential ones are going to... It's going to be huge rank swings, because I actually reckon that not many of the captain candidates will come off, and maybe a fair bit of them don't do as well as we hope. lots of unknowns. It's quite a scary game week, I think, this one.
Yeah, there's caveats everywhere. What's in favour? So at the moment, Rashford is my bus captain. So that will change over the week because it's one of those weeks to be a bit different. So there's caveats for all of them. What's in his favour? He's delivered attacking returns in 11 out of the 17 game weeks. And he's scored against a range of opponents, I think. So yes, we've seen him score and do well against Chelsea, City, Tottenham. But he's also Sheffield United, Brighton, Villa. These are teams where he's getting attacking returns. The last 4 game weeks, you mentioned about those big chances there. So he's had 4 big chances. Vardy's had 5. But I was interested in Watford. So against Liverpool, yes, they looked better. Liverpool looked worse as well. I wonder if their mind is on the World Club Cup. It was the first Salah goal that I was particularly interested in because it was swift, it was on the counter, it was one good pass. I think it was Firmino to Mane, Mane to Salah, bingo. Bit of class. Now, what Rashford thrives on is that counter, and he has been thriving. If someone can get that pass to him, he can be on the edge of the box because he tends to play out wide, and he doesn't necessarily need to be in the penalty box, just blooming well near it. And he can and he can unleash exactly that kind of shot. That Salah goal was sort of the Marcus Rashford sort of goal that's been scored. Swift counter attack, really exemplary finish. That's what Rashford's been doing. So that's in his favour in those regards. Watford,
whether or not he gets the chance to counter, I suppose.
Exactly. And as if, do Manchester United have a player like Firmino or Mane who can pass to Salah? So it's going to rely on another Manchester United player being good and being able to pass it to him. So it could be a number of players within that. It could be one of the midfielders. We can only hope as Rashford owners there. But Watford against Liverpool, yeah, so they weren't on top form, but Watford also conceded 14 shots in the box. So yes, they look better, but they were still conceding a whole hatful of chances. And that's what, a player like Rashford would need. Lots of chances. So I don't know. Let's see. My bus captain at the moment, but as you said, there's room for manoeuvre there. Spurs assets take on a Chelsea side that just lost to Bournemouth. Good options for the captaincy, I reckon. One of them could sway me. But which one is the best? What do you think? Spurs assets.
Yeah, I think Spurs could be where I end up going to because I don't have Rashford right now. Maybe I'll get him. I'm not sure. But if I had to pick someone players I have right now, it might be a Spurs asset. This Chelsea fixture, I think, is quite nice. I think they are to some extent suffering without Tomori while he's been injured. So the defense hasn't been good in the last few game weeks.
Yeah.
And away from home, 3 goals conceded away at Everton in game week 16, 2 goals conceded away at Man City game week 13. They even conceded away at Watford when they weren't scoring goals game week 11. 2 conceded away at Burnley. He even conceded away at Southampton, Wolves, Norwich, 4 at Man United. So still no clean sheets for Chelsea. They're conceding a fair bit on the road, and as I said, Tomori out. It bodes well for the Spurs assets, and we kind of could probably reiterate some of the stuff that we said on the Scoutcast last week, that I still think that Son is probably the better of the options because he's got the ability to get goals and assists. He's created 4 big chances in the last 4 game weeks, which is joint second, level with De Bruyne. So he's still providing that level of creativity. 7 shots in the box, 1 big chance and 3 shots on target isn't as good as we'd perhaps like. In actual fact, Ali is a little bit better in that particular regard. Ali's had 8 shots in the box, 3 big chances and 7 on target. But he's obviously created fewer chances. So I think either of them, if you... a lot of people only own one. I own both. I know that's quite rare. If you have both, it's a tough choice. But if you owned only one of them, then go with... then I think going with them would be a good choice.
I only own Ali at the moment. I intend to own Son as well, and I will be facing that tough choice, and that's why I might just go with Marcus Rashford to save myself the choice. But I know that Chelsea fans are particularly concerned about Ali. They feel that he has a good record against them. I look at that, as you said, you look at Son's consistency there in terms of assists and goal potential. But yeah, I don't know, something about Ali. It's going to be a tough choice. I know that Harry Kane is not there. I have had Harry Kane for parts of this season and got rid of him as well. But I still feel that Son and Ali are better options at the moment, and I think Kane is going to rely on penalties. I think if he's going to get any returns. You mentioned the Chelsea defence there, so I was having a look at the game week that's just gone by, game week 17, and looking at some of the defensive stats there. So goal attempts in the box conceded. Bournemouth, who beat Chelsea, actually the worst. They conceded 15, and then Watford, I've mentioned them as well, 14, the second worst. Third worst so far, Chelsea. Bear in mind, this is being recorded before the Brighton Palace match, so
of course,
plenty of room for them to move up and concede a whole bunch of chances. But yeah, you mentioned Chelsea not looking good without Tomori, looking a bit shaky at the back. Yeah, 11 goal attempts against Bournemouth. How many goal attempts in the box are they going to be conceding against Spurs? A lot. We talk about potential explosiveness sometimes with players, but sometimes what you might need is a bit of consistency. And if you want that, Jiminez is your man, surely, at Wolves. He takes on a Norwich side that has struggled at home of late, and he's done ever so well for me. I mean, just an assist this week, but that's just what he does. So I think you're going to get some points. How many is another matter. But what do you think? Jiminez for the captaincy?
Yeah, I think Jimenez is a good shout this week. But I actually think it's more on the form than the fixture. So, as you mentioned there, an assist this week, his assist potential is always great. He's created 5 big chances in the last 4 matches that he's played in, which is the best of anyone in the whole league. So he's created more than Son, more than De Bruyne. And so then, but I mean, we all know he's got creative potential. And of course, he often shoots a lot, has his shot saved, someone else scores as well. So his assist potential is higher because he's both creative and shoots a lot. Interestingly enough, I mean, I know that a lot of people are going to be on Jimenez anyway, but anyone who has Jota, that doesn't include me anymore, sadly, as we all remember from last week. I actually think Jota looks more likely to score in this game than Jimenez, but of course not to assist. So I still think that Jimenez, that extra bit of money, is probably worth paying. But, if you're sat there with Jota, I would consider him for captaincy this week because last 4 matches, he's had 13 shots in the box. Jimenez has had just 10. He's had 2 big chances. Jimenez has had just 1. And 5 shots on target. Jimenez has had just 4. And just compared to the rest of the league, Jota's 13 shots in the box is the joint 3rd highest. It's only 1 fewer than Vardy. And his 5 shots on target also puts him, I say top 5. There's a number of players tied for 5, 6, 7 and 8 shots on target, but it's still in a decent position within the league. So Jota, not an awful option either. Jimenez, obviously, reliable too. The reason I say it's a form pick over a fixture pick is I do think that Norwich are making some improvements. You're right that they are usually more open at home. We saw that at the Championship last year. Even though they won the league, they conceded considerably more goals at home. They did away because they just play such a more open style of football and they're very dangerous going forward. But in the last 4 game weeks, we are seeing some improvements based on where they were before. So 38 shots conceded in the box is still bottom half. But it's kind of low mid-table rather than right at the bottom, which is what they were when they had a load of people missing. Big chances conceded. Of course, they went into that game against Leicester, I think, joint 3rd in the league with big chances conceded in 4 previous matches and only conceded once against a Leicester team that was in good form. They've now conceded 5 big chances. There's about 6 teams that have conceded fewer, but either way, it's kind of like top half. So improvements there. And XG as well. XG conceded a little bit worse. It's still kind of mid-table, 5.64 they should have conceded over the last couple of games. So I think they'll concede, but I think they are slowly turning in a bit of a corner. We always like to know who the whipping boys are, don't we, Joe? And I think that Norwich are creeping away from that status now that Zimmerman's come back, and it has a twofold impact on that team. Not only does it make them a bit sure at the back because him and Godfrey are quite a decent centre-back pairing, but at the same time makes them more dangerous going forward because of the way they play their football. It means they can play out from the back, from the goalkeeper and the defence better. That means that then they can hold possession higher up the field with the attacking midfielders and Pukki, and then, of course, that in turn protects the back 4 as well because possession is in the right area of the field for them. So I think they'll concede in this game. But I do think the days of Norwich getting tonked like every week, I do think that they are kind of over.
That's true, definitely. They've definitely got better. Very interesting what you're saying about Jota there, because Jimenez is my vice captain at the moment. Just that pure consistency, really. If I want to get an assist or a goal, I think he's the man. What you said about Jota, he could be the more explosive option. He's certainly lower owned, so he could be the mega differential option. Should all the others we've mentioned so far fall flat? Just want to mention about Norwich. I looked at their last 4 home matches, so that includes some Zimmerman action there, but it also so it does reflect something. But they're actually they're still currently on underlying stats wise still poor at home defensively compared to away. So I had a look at goals conceded. They've conceded 9. West Ham are the worst, conceded 10 in the last 4 home matches. Looking at big chances conceded, West Ham have conceded 13, but Norwich over the last 4 home matches have actually conceded 12. So I think very interesting what you were saying about Norwich in the Championship last season, because that could be a trend that is continuing this year. They have tightened up, they're doing it on the road, but at home they're still going for it. And I hope that is the case as a Jimenez owner, and I think those that are daring to be different with Jota could be in for an afternoon. Pookie, an extreme differential these days for the captaincy. Didn't used to be that way, but yeah, he's in good form, good scoring form, so he could be an option. Speaking of consistency, though, Ings versus Villa could be a good shout. Ings has returned in 5 of his last 6 appearances in the league, plus over the last 4 home matches. Villa have conceded a whole bunch of big chances there. So yeah, what do we think of Ings for the captaincy? Don't usually mention him in this video, but could be a week for Ings.
Yeah, it's the week to talk about Ings for the captaincy, definitely. A lot of people think that they broke Ings if they signed him for the most recent game. I don't think you did. I think you got very unfortunate, and so did I, and those of us who all got Ings. He should have scored, really. He probably could have come out of that game with a hat-trick, because he hit the bar, he then smashed a goal in from like 30 yards that should have stood. I mean, there was like, the referee called it back for a foul, and I watched the clip, and I was like, I don't know what the foul was there. So, poor refereeing on that. And he hit the post as well. So, if all of those had gone differently, it were very, very small margins. The shot for the bar was an inch lower, the shot for the post was an inch to the left, and if the referee had made the right decision on the so-called foul, it's a hat-trick. Yeah. So he's in good form. And then, of course, this Villa team, I will always consider anyone playing against Villa. Because I don't trust their defence at all, with good reason. So, we've been talking about how often they concede shots in the box. That's kind of been their bottom of the league for the whole season, and that's still carrying on now. So, last 4 matches, shots conceded in the box, 54 for Villa, and that's the most. And as you've already mentioned, we are recording this before Palace Brighton. Brighton are currently second for that start on 48. That could go up, or I should say, may have gone up by the time you're watching this. Yes. We'll have to see. Although it's Palace at Selhurst Park, so might go down. But either way, Villa are in a very precarious position, conceding shots in the box. 13 big chances conceded, also the worst at the moment at time of recording. And XG conceded in that period 10.09, which is 3 more than the second bottom in Brighton, 7.3. Of course, again, that may change, but either way, to potentially should have conceded that number of goals in the last 4. You can tell they're not doing great. Mings, as much as I think he's not had a great season, him not being there obviously is also a problem. So that injury there makes them worse still. So they are going to concede chances, and if Ings is in the form that he's in, then it's quite hard to see him not getting something. And as you mentioned there, if we're looking for, because this week you could either go for differential to make up ground, or you just kind of want to go for the least worst option. A lot of people have had to think about that phrase in the last couple of months. Then maybe Ings is the way to go, because the reliability is there. So it's I think maybe that's what might draw people to him, especially with Villa being such a bad defensive team.
Yeah, I jokingly went on social media after Ings' blank this week saying that everyone had broken him. But I, of course, was joking because I was a non-owner, and I was extremely lucky because he, as you said, he could have got an absolute,
could have been a hat-trick.
Could have got a monster score there. I've had a look at Villa at home. They're particularly, I always think home and away are interesting, but I think they're particularly interesting for some of the promoted sides, because they often either rely a lot on their home crowd performance there, because they're going to bigger, more unfamiliar grounds, away from home. But in the case of Norwich, obviously it's completely different. They're just going for it at home, and Anyway, so what I was looking at Villa. So Villa last 4 home matches have conceded 11 big chances there. So bear in mind, I just mentioned about Norwich. Norwich have conceded 12 big chances at home, and West Ham have conceded 13. So Aston Villa they're one of the worst sides in terms of big chances over the last 4 home matches. They've only conceded 7 goals. Well, I say only 7 goals. Bearing in mind, West Ham conceded 10 in the last 4 home matches. Villa have conceded 7, but their expected goals conceded, they should have conceded around 9. They've got lucky. They should have conceded more. That says to me, I think if you're an Ings owner, I'm not an Ings owner, and I'm a dullard manager, but I actually think Ings is the dullard option. I don't think he's in any way maverick this week. I think you're going to get some points, and I think you could get a lot of points, but I think you're definitely going to get some points. So I think Ings is a good bet this week. I'm nervous again. So moving on, we usually mention, as I said at the start, Jamie Vardy at the moment. Absolutely reliable captaincy candidate. Sensible approach, I think, if you're looking at Vardy and KDB in particular. So Leicester playing Man City. What do we think of this match? Both defences seem to be quite good at the moment. Is this a week to captain Vardy or KDB?
Well, interestingly enough, we talk about differential captains this week. That these are, I think, going to be differential options because people will stay away, won't they?
Yeah.
We've always discussed games like this being, if something has to give for someone to score, then it tends to put you off. So I understand that, but at the same time, if you're looking for something bold and potentially explosive, then maybe this is the way to go. So when I say something will have to give, as you mentioned, the defences both look quite good. So last 4 matches, Man City XGC 2.57, best in the league, and Leicester 3.62, and that puts them 5th. So they're both, top 6 type defences right now, as you'd expect, as they are in the top 6. But at the same time, Vardy still in particularly good statistical form. Didn't have the best game against Norwich. But he's still, in the last 4 matches, he's second for shots in the box behind only Salah. He's top for big chances, level with McGoldrick, that dangerous striker, and Chris Wood. And then for shots on target, he has dipped now. So he was top for a while. He's gone down to 7 over the last 4 behind Rashford, Salah. And then we should also mention De Bruyne, who's now for shots on target, although with no big chances, it's worth pointing out. Although he is very good from range. But what that all boils down to is that Vardy and De Bruyne over the last 4 matches are both top of the league for expected goal involvement. So you've got 2 very good defences and you've got 2 very fantastic form players who have been showing that they can get goals and assists. So then comes down to, I think, what you believe. What's your system for picking captains is if you go form over fixture, then by all means go for one of these guys because they're in great form. But at the same time, if you go for fixture over form, the defensive numbers suggest that their attacking potential is going to dip. The only perhaps caveat is maybe when you look at this fixture and sort of think about how you expect it to play out. Man City, you'd expect to dominate possession. You'd expect them to have a lot of possession in Leicester's half. And you probably expect Leicester to let them do that because I think Rodgers quite fancies his team defensively this year.
Yes.
And at the same time knows the power of the counter that he has with Jamie Vardy. There's lots of times when the stats don't quite show you what Vardy can do because there'll be a lot of times when he's the last man and he makes the run and someone doesn't find him or someone plays the ball and he's offside or something. And then therefore that doesn't show up in the stats, it only shows up in the eye test. And there may be some situations where they're able to counter on Man City. Because that's usually what it is. Man City's XGC is never normally that high, but they don't tend to keep clean sheets hugely often because it's like if they concede a big chance, it's probably going to go in because, with all due respect, I don't think their defenders can defend like traditional defenders, and I don't really think Ederson is a traditional goalkeeper for making saves. Of course, he's not terrible; he can make saves, but he's not a Nick Pope or a Dean Henderson. He's in the team to pass the ball, so there's every chance that Vardy can get something. It's just, at the same time, there's every chance Man City just keep possession in Leicester's half the whole game, and he never gets to look in. So big decision if you're going to go with that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned expected goal involvement, because when we were on the Breakfast Club at the weekend, I quickly cobbled together a table about expected goal involvement. Just thinking it was something quite interesting. Just had a few names on it: Jiminez, De Bruyne, Sterling, players that have been jettisoned by a whole bunch of people, and we were saying that actually their underlying stats are showing they should be involved in a heap more goals. And what happened? They were involved in a heap more goals. So these are definitely stats to look at. And yeah, it just depends on whether you think their defences are going to be breached. And there's no doubt about the form of De Bruyne and Vardy. Great picks for the captaincy on paper on their own merits, but I just wonder about the nature of this clash, because it's essentially a sort of Champions League place, top of the table clash at the moment. So it could be tight.
And they both got to win it, really, because of where Liverpool are. So if they draw this game, if they play this game to draw, doesn't really suit either team, I suppose, because they're both so far away from Liverpool.
Yeah.
So there's that element to it too.
Yeah, it just depends how you think it's going to play out and the mentality of them as well. But there's no way we're going to sit here and say that De Bruyne and Vardy aren't good captaincy shouts.
Oh, yeah.
They are. They always are. It's barrel scraping time. Now, in a week where barrels are probably being scraped anyway for the captaincy because of the dearth of options and fixtures. But yeah, what do we think about some of the other fixtures taking place? I'll tell you one differential I'm quite intrigued by. An Everton asset, Richarlison, or even Calvert-Lewin. How about that? Against that Arsenal defence. That's how bad Arsenal are at the moment. Grealish against the Southampton defence. Spurs defence isn't that great either. What about backing Tammy Abraham again? These are all, it's barrel scraping time. But any of those appeal? Any other barrel scrapies?
Yeah, I like the Everton shout because they seem to be doing a little bit better under Duncan Ferguson. And of course, most teams are going to score against Arsenal. They don't look in good shape at all. I don't really know what their situation is going to be managerially, and whatever they were hoping Freddie Ljungberg would be able to bring to the table hasn't really happened. I think that's a good shout. Other ones you mentioned decent as well. The only other one I want to mention him is John Lindstrom because. Sheffield United's defence away from home is usually a little bit better. And we've said last couple of weeks that from the eye test especially, he's been really unfortunate not to get more returns. Could have had a monster haul against Norwich if it wasn't for a few refereeing decisions and sort of little things here and there. You can check out some of the articles we've done on him of late if you want some more detail on that. He always looks like he can get something. Obviously, 11 points against Aston Villa. I actually thought they would concede in that game, and they nearly did. Jack Grealish helped us out by hitting the bar and making sure anyone who benched Dean Henderson didn't lose any penalty save points. So thank you, Jack. But they obviously they kept out a team that I thought was capable of scoring against them largely. So they could keep a clean sheet against Brighton. So then there's some 4 points there. As I said, John Lindstrom's attacking potential is always going to be very obvious, and always there's always going to be chances.
Brighton are very vulnerable. As a Brighton fan, also just someone who follows fantasy football, it's obvious Brighton concede from set pieces. They're not good at them. Yes. They score a lot from set pieces too. They concede a lot, so it could be one of those Sheffield defender type. Sheffield defender or a player because remember Lindstrom isn't actually a defender.
Exactly.
But he's the guy that will get that ball in. He could be the guy that is on the end of a corner, for example, as well. So, I think that's not a bad shout, actually. Even if they concede, there is attacking returns there for their defence. Interesting. Meanwhile, it's time to say goodbye, but it's time to say good luck with the game week, but also just to plug the members area again, just to tell people, not only can you get it for the whole season, the memberships, all the access to exclusive stats, season ticket, exclusive articles, everything like that. You can also get it on a monthly basis. Have a look on fantasyfootballscout.co.uk for more. But for now, David, thanks a lot for your time.
Cheers, and good luck to you in Gameweek 18, Joe.